Why don't we call the meeting to order? We'll say that we're calling a meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Start off with a roll call.
Downing.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
McConnell.
Here.
Meckus.
Here.
Nichols is absent. Townsend.
Here.
Vanderbeck is not here. He didn't, he's not here. But he didn't let us know that he was going to be
We have a
absent.
quorum, we
So.
can proceed. Before we do that, I just dawned on me, at our meetings, we look around, in each meeting, we have a representative from our city council attending our meetings, and I'd like to take this opportunity to say that the fact that the city council acknowledges us and feel that we're important enough to assign the person, we appreciate that, and we want to thank you for being here. Okay. Item number 2, consider a motion adopting consent calendar as presented or as amended. Can I get a motion? Okay. Motion, second? Okay.
Second.
Okay. At this point, we'll have discussion on the consent calendar. Any discussion? Okay. If no discussion, then we'll move on to the vote. All those in favor of accepting the consent calendar as presented, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Aye. Oppose? Okay, the ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we can move on to item number 3 on new business. Do we have any new business? Okay, well, we definitely need to look at selecting a nominating committee so that we can have recommendations for new officers for the coming year. And we usually need two volunteers for the nominating committee. Just all those hands just flying around there, so I don't, okay, thank you, Jerry. Thought I was going to bribe somebody for a moment. Okay,
I'll volunteer.
Jerry and Saul, okay. So we have two individuals. Is there anyone else that would like to volunteer for the nominating committee? Okay, if not, then we have a nominating committee of Jerry and Saul. And you guys can get together and come up with recommendations for officers for the coming year. I would request that once you've decided on an individual, that you contact that individual to assure that the individual is willing to serve, and if so, then you can submit that person as a recommendation at our next meeting. And we want to thank you in advance.
So we're talking about chair and vice chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we also need to have some discussion on the CRP board powers, 8-8-8, parentheses B, parentheses 1, on its own. And I think this is something that one of our board members had some concerns about. And, okay, Jerry wanted to bring that up for discussion. And so, Jerry, at this time, we'll let you share with us what your concerns are and any recommendations that you have.
Okay. I've thought a lot since the board made that referral on a complaint. And I'm questioning that the board being able to make complaints. I know I refer back to David Selmer, who was chairman when I started. He was adamant the board could only respond to what the complaint was. If a board member saw something else, they could make a complaint individually. I have 2 principles that I am following as a board member: to be fair and to protect the integrity of this board. Second, I object to a complaint coming from the news or social media. The news only shows a tidbit of the action, the most exciting, whatever, controversial part of it. And I worry that if the board's allowed to do that, then why would the general public not be allowed to do that? We've always said that the complaint has to come from someone who was there in the vicinity and saw it with their own eyes. As we now are being asked to explain the reason for abstaining, which I will do if the situation comes up again, my reason will be protecting the integrity of the board.
Is there any discussion? Anyone have anything they'd like to add to that, or any concerns?
I'd have to say I've had some of those same concerns about that section. That the specifics of saying a person that was involved or someone that has firsthand knowledge, and I question how it's difficult to be objective. And so for the board to file a complaint, I question the objectivity and being impartial. So I have to say I don't disagree. I mean, it doesn't mean we always like or agree with everything we see, but I'm not sure that as board members we should be filing our own complaints.
Yeah. You know, only thing I would add is that having worked with individuals with mental illness, what I discovered is that they're a very vulnerable population, and they're not the ones that will show initiative, and they work very hard at not being in a situation where they feel they can be targeted. So ordinarily, I don't have a problem with what everybody's saying, but I would say that if we're going to mess around with that anything we do, that we do it in a way so that we take in consideration of that vulnerable population that's not going to come out and talk and represent themselves, but they will make the fact that they've been treated unfairly or something's not right in a very passive way. And I think whatever we do, we need to make sure that we do it in a way that we're going to continue to protect that vulnerable population.
If they were reluctant to come in and report, make a complaint, then how would we know about it?
Well, you know, we had individuals that they would not do it, but someone that they had a few people that they feel comfortable with, that it's sort of like rape. You know, a lot of rapes wouldn't be reported or be known about if the person hadn't, they won't come into the police station. They don't want to be in the system. And if they didn't talk to someone that would then make it be known, then that incident would never surface.
And we wouldn't know about it.
Wouldn't know about it. So that's why I say whatever we do, I'm hoping we will handle it in a way that we're going to continue to give consideration to that vulnerable population. Not everybody has the courage to step forward.
Right. I think, you know, we already have rules that say they can come with a friend, they can, you know, bring a minister, they can do whatever as a support. And
or basically, a lot of times they won't do anything up front. They will tell somebody. What I'm saying is we'll have situation that's going to be secondhand where someone will come and make something aware that happened to somebody, and then as the process begin to unveil, then maybe they can work that person in to have the courage to participate, you know. But it's not going to happen up front. Up front, someone who is not directly involved is going to be the one that's going to be driving the situation, just like it happened to them, until we can work that person in at a point that they're comfortable. Pat, do we have any legal boundaries that we need to address in this situation?
Yeah, so I'll step in here. The one thing I wanted to make sure that everybody understood is that the board does have that authority already. It's in the ordinance now, so it's not something that, we need to ask permission to do. It's something that the board already has that power to do. It's not something that one individual board member can file a complaint. It's something where one of the board members can ask that the board as an entity file a complaint by itself. So, Jerry, if you're asking about, removing that power from the board, that would require an amendment to the ordinance, which requires city council approval.
And, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, at least for me, I know that a couple of meetings ago, we had a discussion about a situation, and that's kind of what raised the concerns for me. And so I wanted to make sure, I appreciate Jerry bringing it up, because that's where I was concerned, because I wasn't sure I was comfortable with the discussion, and I think it's fair for all of us to talk about it. Yes, we already have that power, but to have the discussion about Jerry's concerns, my concerns, I don't know if anybody else has them as well, or, so that if it does come up, that we perhaps take those concerns into consideration. And think about the board impartiality, and the board, whether they have knowledge or not of a situation, and all of those things, to make sure that if we choose to do that, that we step carefully through that whole process.
Yeah, and I remember when I was a counselor, I used to have an individual sign to me that had no self-confidence, was shy, that worked, most of their efforts was to keep a low profile and stay out of the light, stay in the shadows. And I'd start off working with an individual like that, and over a period of a couple of years, just, a motherfucker, a person just began to get confidence, and, so, if you can get the person to the point where they can do that, that's great, but I think it's important that we remember, that we don't make the mistake of looking at everybody like us. Everybody's not in the place where we are. There are a lot of people that are, less fortunate and much more vulnerable that don't have the confidence to do it. So whatever we do, I'm hoping that we won't remove anything that we have in place that allows those people to be a part of the process, even though they don't have the courage to just stand alone.
I'd like to weigh in, if that's okay. The reason why I was for this particular thing is because I feel that we don't have all the answers, because it is social media, and I concur with that. But I also know that, say, the person could have a criminal record, and they're certainly not going to report a complaint. They don't want to get involved. There could be a slew of reasons why what happens. But I think it's warranted, and each situation be individual, that we at least have some kind of investigation into what actually did happen. Because honestly, I feel that it's our responsibility as part of the board to not only protect the public, but to have great relationships with the police officers that defend us, that are here to serve and protect. And body cam footage, and seeing all those different angles and listening to all those different people, it's a great thing to have the advantage to see that information and not just go off one cell phone video, which is why I feel the partiality can be maintained in these aspects.
I really object to referrals being made from a television news show or on social media. You don't see the whole picture.
Could you give an example of, what would be an example of that situation, Jerry? Could you have an example?
Can I ask a question? Do we have to be careful about the situation we're talking about?
Yeah.
Because we're not in closed session?
Yeah, that's true. If you're
Yeah.
talking about the particular discussion that you had a couple weeks ago, that's exactly right. So-
Okay, okay. I would draw the question. Okay.
So I guess I would say if you want to propose some amendment to the ordinance that gives you more direction about under what parameters you can file your complaint, maybe think about having that discussion. But as it sits right now, you've got the authority to do it so long as one of the board members make the motion and it passes. So, and I want to caution everybody, I guess, about social media things too, because you're right, you don't see the whole story, so you have to have, you know, some sort of basis to draft your complaint to say what it is that you're complaining about. So if you don't have the whole story, for instance, if we're talking about unauthorized or excessive use of force, how do you know that was excessive because you only have a little snippet of what happened? So.
Yeah, and you know, we can discuss this, and we can go around and round and round, but would it be possible, you know, if someone have some concerns, could you just sit down and kind of jot it out in terms of what the concern is, and before you present it to us, you might want to run it by Pat to make sure that it's something that, you know, or how we need to discuss it, if there's some things we need to miss. So that's another thing, and then we can revisit this at a later time. That way I think we would get maybe much of a more focus on what the real issues are that we want to address.
Yeah, I'm happy to have that conversation with anybody, any one of you individually at any time. That's fine. You can call me or email me anytime.
Yeah, so are you comfortable with that, Jerry?
Sure.
Okay, why don't we take that direction, and then we'll have this as an agenda item when you're ready to do so.
I just wanted to bring it to the attention.
No, I mean, I think it's worth it, and that's why we're here, and anything we do is just going to make the process better for people down the road and for the citizens of our city. So, yeah. So why don't we do that? Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. So we have our selection committee, and we have the discussion on that out of the way. Brings us to old business. Do we have any old business?
No, you can move on, because there's,
Okay. No public comment? All right. Any board information? Staff information?
nothing.
You guys are really cooperative this evening. Okay, looking at our tentative meeting dates, you want to take a look at your calendars to see if you have any conflicts that we need to address?
I don't know if this is the right spot to bring this up, but we were talking before the meeting. I'd like to throw out for a couple of reasons. Personally, I prefer meeting across the hall. This room, yeah, we're sitting way far apart. We rarely have much of an audience. Thank you for being here. But it's not like we fill the entire hall. And so we're sitting quite a ways from each other. It just seems like that works easier. It's easier for staff to set up. And if we're reviewing reports, like we're going to be looking at a couple of reports today, it's simpler because the screen's closer, you know, versus looking at a report that's up here. So I know there was some preference for this room, but I'd just like to throw that out if anybody has any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I'd say, Tammy, why don't you add that as a agenda meeting under
Okay.
new items for next month?
And I'll take those comments and move them back to board information. Okay. Okay, any other, okay, if there's no other staff information, we were looking at tentative meeting dates. Do we have any conflicts that we need to address?
I'm glad to have it before my second surgery, so yes.
Okay.
It's like right the day before.
Okay, well, the, let's see, I think the October 11th date, I'm going to be absent. My wife and I will be cruising. So, but I definitely don't want you to change the meeting, so, okay?
Yeah, if we could have it every other Tuesday so we could go to board meeting, the council,
Yes.
on the Tuesdays they do meet.
That doesn't happen very often, but yeah.
Okay, fortunately, we haven't had a need for any action there, so we can move on to item number 9, consider motion to adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved, can I have a second?
Second.
Move second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, we're going into executive session at 5:50. We're back in executive session at 6:20. PM.
Sorry. Are y'all awake now?
What?
Okay, now that we're back in, need a motion to accept, now that we're back in the executive regular session, need a motion to accept CBRPB report 22-06 and forward to city council as amended.
So moved.
Move,
Seconded.
second. All those in favor? I didn't
Aye.
hear a roll
Aye.
call there. did you?
Oh, we got a roll call for
Roll
that?
call?
Yep. Meckes,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Downing. Aye. Vandervecht,
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we need a motion to accept CPRB Report 22-07 and forward to City Council as amended.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
and second. Roll
Okay.
call.
We're voting on 2207.
Townsend,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Downing. Aye. Vandervecht,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Meckes.
Aye.
Okay. And next of all, we need a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Second.
It's been moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 6:25 PM.